Before you go and launch a startup, you need to watch this video. Hi, I'm Ryan O'Hara, and if you don't know who I am, you're lucky. I'm a real piece of shit. But when I'm not acting like a piece of shit, I've helped tons of different startups grow from 0 customers to thousands of customers worldwide. And I'm gonna walk you through the first thing you should do before you even launch your startup. Now, maybe you have a logo, you have a look and feel, you got an idea of what you want to do for your business idea, but there's one thing that's super important before you hit go on anything in public. And that's answering this one question. Do you have a market? It might seem like the most obvious thing in the world, but in real life, if you go talk to a ton of these startup founders, a lot of these people, when they're not drinking their kombucha and sipping away at their weird kale chip saltine shit, are usually launching startups with an idea with no market. And I've made this mistake. In fact, I've had 2 startups that I've tried to launch with no market, and both of them have failed severely.
So you won't admit the CEO is handsome?
I don't think so.
Even to a point where it's embarrassing. That's right, even more embarrassing than this haircut. If you can't identify a market for your startup idea, your idea doesn't exist. That's the fact. It's one of the most important parts here. So how do you know if you have a good startup idea and the right market? Well, the easiest way to determine this is to go interview a market over and over again to understand what their problems are. You should actually do this before you write any code, before you offer any services or build a website or do any selling.
Hey guys, what's your problem?
Uh-oh. Now, the hardest part here for people that are startup founders is you have to shut the fuck up. I know it's super hard. I have trouble doing it. Look at me right now. I can't be quiet, but you have to shut up. If you go and talk to these people and say, hey, what are your problems? And you lead them down a path of revealing something, you're gonna get a false alarm and you're gonna think that you have a market for something. And 3 years later, you're gonna be updating everybody on LinkedIn, telling them that your startup's doing great when really you're crying in the shower every morning. You have to have a market before you do anything. I'm gonna be making a ton of different videos and giving you expertise based on my experiences on how you can grow your startup from 0 to Series B. But if you don't have a market for your startup, you don't have a startup. Okay, so let's dive into how you can find your market. The first thing to do is to find a market that you have some familiarity in. This is because you're gonna have an advantage over your competitors if you've been in that space before. For example, for me, when I worked at LeadIQ as the VP of Marketing and Growth and we were pre-revenue, we were selling to people that worked in prospecting. People like sales development representatives, sales development managers, VPs of sales, account executives, directors of sales. I understood that space really well because I had worked at Dine doing business development stuff and trying to build pipeline for a B2B SaaS company before. So naturally I had a good inclination of that audience, and I had a decent following of people that either worked with me or talked with me in the past or worked at companies that are adjacent to mine. You're gonna have an advantage when you're doing marketing if you have a slew of people in your portfolio. So one good question to ask yourself is, who do you have access to? Remember, today in the 2020s, it's way harder to get a response over cold outreach than it used to be. And now everybody's trying to start a startup, so they're getting spammed all the time on LinkedIn Messenger with like, ooh, I'm a startup trying to start this idea. That's not gonna work for you. What's gonna work instead is having access to people already that you've met before. If you're someone that's out of school and you don't have a lot of access, ask your friends' parents. You can go and look for people that are alumni that went to school with you. You can look for people that live in the same town as you or are local. There's all kinds of different things, but the key thing you want to look for is people that are the same type of buyer over and over again so that you can build a marketing plan around going after that audience. So for example, let's pretend that I wanted to build a procurement startup. For people that don't know, procurement is a process at these different companies where you manage all your vendors and figure out where you're spending money. You review contracts, make sure things meet security compliance, all that stuff. I'm gonna wanna go talk to 20 or 30 different people that work in procurement before I build one line of code. And I know it's gonna be hard. You're gonna be like, oh man, I had a really good phone call. This is an amazing idea, but your sample set is too small. You'll start hearing patterns on the 3rd and 4th and 5th conversation. But by the time you get to the 30th, you'll start noticing that those patterns are different. If you're a weird introvert guy or girl who doesn't talk to a lot of people and you hiss at light and you're antisocial, you might have some trouble getting these conversations going. That might be something you go look for a co-founder to help you with that does have access to those people if there's a particular market that you want to go after. One mistake that I see a lot of the time is I see these people that are engineers and stuff try and get involved with going after marketing and sales folks when they don't understand sales or marketing. Now, sometimes it does work out, but a lot of the time they have to surround themselves with people that are experts in that space to make it work. For example, when I joined LeadIQ, my CEO and my CTO both didn't really have a lot of experience doing sales or prospecting. But when I came in, I had about 7 years of experience being in that space. So I was able to go get conversations with a bunch of these people that ran sales and prospecting teams for them. And we were able to validate stuff and make the product a lot better. The second thing you can do to find your market is to go and think of problems that you dealt with at your last job. It's pretty obvious, but I remember thinking about like, oh man, I really was struggling with XYZ. If you see a pattern that's coming up over and over and over again for you, go talk to other people that work in similar roles to you and get feedback on if they have that pattern of problems also. And it'll make it way easier for you to go launch all your crazy go-to-market schemes afterward. The other cool thing that happens is when you conduct these user interviews, people feel like they have ownership and they're part of that startup. And that's an important part of the journey. You want to make people feel like it's a community and that when you do well, they're doing well because they were part of the story at the beginning. It might sound lame, but people have social currency. You want to feel like they're on the ground floor of something new and innovative. Okay, and the third and last way that you can find a market, and this one's actually kind of obvious, is you just build a competitor of another company that's already existing that's doing really well. Now, if you go this route, you can go and talk to their customers. Go to their website, look at their case studies, look at companies that mention them in their job postings, and you can take that information and go reach out to people there with some cold outreach and ask them, hey, is this a problem? How happy are you with them? If you see a vendor that's getting crapped on online over and over again, maybe you can build your own clone of that company and make it not suck. Seems pretty simple, doesn't it? Those are kind of the three ways that you can go and find your market. So first option is think of people you already have access to. The second option is look for problems that you had at your last job and then find people that are just like you. And the third option is to go find a company that's already doing something and copy them. Take them on. You got this. You're a world champ, am I right? Sweep that leg. Okay, I got too excited. You'll start hearing people in these conversations with you over and over again tell you that they have the same problem. That's a signal that maybe it's time for you to go build something. Don't just launch something with an idea. You're leaving it to too much dumb luck, and literally only 1 in 10 startups will end up raising money, and 1 in 10 of those startups will end up surviving to a next round of funding. You increase your odds of your startup being successful if you have a market right from the beginning and you build a product for that market and you have access to people in that market. Once you have your market identified, you're probably ready to start scheming some ways to get your first customers. All right, everyone, I'll talk to you later. Please hit the subscribe button because I'm pathetic and have no friends, and this will give me some meeting. Talk to you later.